Start streaming. All right, shalom, shalom, chavrim. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. We've kind of been out of the office here for a couple of days there as we have prepared for, actually we were working on the background here in the office there. And my father-in-law is so kind enough to get everything taken care of. And of course, because we've had blankets hung on the wall here for quite some time. So we are a little bit better off, running a little better now, but we do have some very serious topics in the news that are going on. I'm going to be discussing about 4 of those topics, including Ukraine, an offensive against Donbas, or the eastern part of Ukraine. We're going to be looking at the Huawei situation and Miss Meng being taken into custody by Canada. We'll be looking at the terror tunnels with Israel, as well as Bill Gates, his idea of using nanoparticles to block sun rays. Wow, gosh. It is a crazy, crazy things that are happening, and I realize I'm not even touching everything that is going on in the news, but these are some very important things that are happening that we need to touch base with. And the first one on the agenda, of course, is Ukraine. The Interfax Ukraine news agency reporting Poroshenko on December 10th to sign a bill terminating friendship treaty with Russia. From every angle that I can see this, it appears to be that Ukraine is being used by the CIA playbook to draw Russia into a conflict. Although their offensive will be against the eastern defectors of the nation, the pro-Russian separatists, the Donetsk and Luhansk republics, as they have self-proclaimed themselves to be. They do use Russian currency, so Russia has backed them to some degree. Russia also having annexed Crimea. The people voted. They were given their right to vote. They wanted to be a part of Russia. Crimea was not part of Ukraine originally. It was actually part of the mainland Russian Federation many, many years ago. During the Soviet era, it was handed over the delegation of its day-to-day political affairs by the Ukrainian government. I'm sure Russia probably regretted doing that, especially in the current standoff that's happening in that part of the world. But we had gotten a private message in 2 days ago that Ukraine is preparing a major offensive against the eastern part of Donetsk. We were told that that would happen within the next 10 days. This offensive. Someone shared with me that Hal Turner was reporting that NATO was sending tanks via Poland into Ukraine, preparing for a massive offensive. I have seen Poroshenko using huge planes, putting his soldiers in to do a parachute drop. I see that he's getting his Sukhoi bombers out, ready to attack the eastern part of the nation. We are reading reports that they may be using chemical weapons as well in this region against the Donetsk people there. And of course, as we reported from Lorenzo, it already happened a few days ago, that 7 tanks unmarked were moved to Mariupol. It was believed to be that these tanks would have insignias put on them at a later time and then used against civilian populations to justify this war on eastern parts of Ukraine, or even a conflict with Russia. Now, I am watching for all the information because I've been given inside information that a massive war is going to come. It's not just going to be the little shelling anymore. It is going to be a major offensive, not by Russia, as it's being played up in the media, but by Ukraine itself. But there's got to be a provocation to get it all started. Says in here, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, the CIA operative that he is, has said that on Monday, December the 10th, he will sign a bill on the termination of the friendship treaty with Russia Federation from April 2019 into law. So he just basically wants a war. And NATO is willing to give it for him. Who's calling the shots in this? I mean, this is absolutely insane. I looked over here at Michael D. Now, Michael, I believe, lives in Ukraine. He is very much pro for his people. And for the Ukrainian government side, for the western side of Ukraine, not for the eastern side. But he puts in here, delegation of 34 Maritime Safety Committee on the International Maritime Organization member states, including Australia, Canada, France, Germany, and the UK and the US, have supported the positions of Ukraine and condemned the act of armed aggression by Russia against Ukraine. They're trying to get a war started, right? He also notes on, he has several things, and I wanted to show you. Poroshenko has submitted to the Ukrainian parliament a bill of termination of the Treaty of Friendship, which I showed you they already did that. There was actually a couple of other things on here. Let me just see if I can find it. Oh, goodness. Maybe he's already added some things on here since I had a chance to look at this last, or maybe I got it in the wrong place. Okay, here we go right here. 4 hours ago, the DPR, which is Donetsk People's Republic, accuses Ukraine of planning to use more than 90 hospitals across the country to treat injured servicemen during an upcoming offensive in Donbas. They say Ukraine has prepared 90 plus hospitals with a total capacity of 41,000 people. Now, this is what the Donetsk People's Republic is saying. There's a good possibility it's true. Also, the DPR is also accusing Ukrainian Joint Forces operation of amassing dozens of T-64s in the direction of Golovka and Karnovka, 10 kilometers from the front lines. You know, this reminds me of years ago, back in 2014, when we actually got the footage. Even Alex Jones ran a story about the footage that we had captured there of over 40 tanks being sent to the front lines of Donetsk there to try to launch a massive offensive against them. And sometimes good reporting helps prevent them from being able to carry out some of their atrocities. Because it will be an atrocity, it'll be an ethnic cleansing of the Russian Orthodox communities in eastern Ukraine. I mean, face it, it's a fascist neo-Nazi government now being ran in Ukraine and carrying out the wills of a NATO regime. You know, I mean, it's not much different than Miss Meng, who was arrested in Canada on this alleged violation of the sanctions against Iran, conducting business with Iran. Since when do we go around arresting CFOs to a corporation because of your stupid sanctions? You know, I'm no Iranian, prefer Iran over other nations for no purpose, but the point is, as I've said before, Iran has one of the largest and fastest growing Christian communities in the world, over 1 million believers in Iran right now. Not to mention 30,000 Jews that refuse to leave Iran, even though Israel says, oh, you gotta leave, they're such a bad nation. They came out publicly and said, hey, it's not the best place in the world, but we live here. They even have a representative in the Iranian government. And he said, no, it's not the perfect place. But nonetheless, as I have often said, Abraham, the father of many goyim, not just nations as you like to translate that in the Bible there, he's the father of many nations, or goyim, Gentiles, for the Jews that don't know how to translate Hebrew yet. Nonetheless, so it doesn't mean just our people. It's not just the Jewish people, but he is a father of Ishmael's children as well. And I know that Isaac is the promised son. But Isaac, you have to understand, the promise is dealing with the coming of the Mashiach. Not that Ishmael is some lesser being or something. No, he's Abraham's son. He loves him. By the way, you ought to check out today on the Noon Institute. I'm going to shock you on why, biblically, why Yeshua called the Pharisees children of the devil. And why he said that they were also Abraham's sons, yes, they are. But you're going to find out why the modern state of Israel now has it a law that you are a Jew because of your mother. It's hiding a sin that you have no idea about. Check it out on the Noon Institute today. That'll be a provocative message for everybody. Anyway, getting back to this, let's get on with Ukraine here. All right, this is the situation right now. Russia is preparing. The United States, as we reported the other day, is threatening, according to the Ukrainian government, to send naval ships into the Sea of Azov. That will be a major problem. It's not that America doesn't have a right of navigation. Sure they do. Anybody should. But it's just to incite more tensions, right? So Crimea is ready. Eastern Donetsk is ready. And it's saying right here, the DNR group claims that the Ukrainian army prepares for offensive near I can't even pronounce the name, Novozovsk. Say there will be provocation with shelling of Ukrainian territories with chemical substances. All right, so what they're saying is that the Ukrainian government is going to use chemical weapons on their own people to say that it was Russian-backed militants using chemical weapons against Donetsk, and therefore they will get NATO behind this as an attack on Russia. Boy, that game book never changes, does it? Works really good over there in Syria, even though we know the chemical weapons, those kitchen sarin gas they use there, came from Libya, smuggled thanks to the good old help of Erdogan. Remember, don't forget, Erdogan told Poroshenko he would work with him to take back Crimea. How are they going to do it? A chemical weapons attack. What do you know? You know, anytime there's chemical weapons used, President Trump will take and say, push the button, bomb them, bomb them, bomb them, bomb them. You know, you beat that bear with a big enough stick, he will come out. That's all I can tell you there. He will come out, and you can count on it. Let's take a look at other things here. World War III warning Ukrainian Navy on high alert amid tensions with Russia. I'm going to play just a few seconds. This is where the Ukrainian Navy is blaming everything on Russia. Oh, they took our sailors and they took 3 of our ships. Well, what did Ukraine do just a few weeks there before then? How many Russian vessels were you detaining? Nobody ever wants to point that out, do they?
The government is doing its utmost to secure the country's shores and interior and rally support from NATO. Ukraine
there's the key. Rally support from NATO.
Wide-scale drills. But the bottom line is, when it comes to number of personnel and vessels, there is no match between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine's naval commander told CGTN Russia's navy outnumbers Ukraine's by 11 to 1, both in personnel power and vessels.
Got to have an excuse to get NATO on your side. Well, of course NATO wants to be on their side, because after all, the United States, under that big guise of Monsanto, bought up a lot of land in Ukraine to farm their death crops that they're going to feed to the European public. And by the way, Europe used to get most of their nice vegetables and good seeded non-GMO products from Russia, but they're going to change all that. They're going to turn Ukraine into the death crops, and they're going to feed that to the people over there, and they're all going to turn into a bunch of fat bodies and die off with all kinds of diseases. Thank you, Monsanto. Oh boy, I'm in one of those moods today. Let me tell you something. All right, this was in the Russian language here, this article right here, online47.ru, calculations, the S-400 Triumph worked March through the Leningrad region. Russia has been sending both to the area near the eastern part of Ukraine as well as Crimea, Leningrad. They have been doing massive drills there with the anticipation of a major air campaign against their country. Leningrad, of course, is separated from the mainland part of the world there. In fact, if we look at the live view map there, I can we'll kind of scoot up that direction there just so you can see this, so we can get a little bit better view there. Here we go, right up, there's Latvia, Estonia, and of course, right there in the midst of all that, there it is right there, Leningrad. It's in the Russian language right there. Well, it says Russia is what it says there. They're preparing there for an offensive as well. Why? Because Europe would love to take that parcel of land because it also serves as a Russian naval base, just like Crimea does. They're really wanting to put the hurts to Russia. And I have a feeling this is the place they'd like to get, as well as taking Crimea back and really limiting what Russia has access to. So we'll just have to wait to see how that plays out. All right, so we're going to go over here now to Miss Meng here, and of course she represents as the CFO, Chief Financial Officer there of Huawei, the technology giant. And of course, as we already know, she has been arrested by the Canadian officials, and of course that arrest was because they are claiming that this woman right here was actually violating Iranian sanctions. Now, I have to tell you something, friends. I have never known personally that we ever went out and started arresting company executives over such actions as this to begin with. The U.S. saying that she actually violated the sanctions that the United States has against Iran. Well, you know, the funny thing is, all right, Putin also has violated those sanctions that the U.S. has. Do we see someone trying to arrest him? Of course not. I mean, this is absolutely insane what they are doing. Now, I know that the company Huawei is also a threat to our big high dollar Apple industry because the Huawei has developed a phone that is just like the Apple phone at a fraction of the price. It's like sells for like $250 compared to the $700 and something for the iPhone 10, etc. And yet they're accusing the company of using their phones to spy on everybody else. Well, you know, hello, do you not think that the cloud in which we have developed here in the United States is not spying on everybody in America and around the world? Do you not think that Windows 10, where you have all your information stored in your computer, is there for the public view of the government? We spy on everybody in the world, and it's okay if it's America. Oh, geez. You know, friends, listen, I love this country, but I do not love what it is becoming. We are becoming a neo-Nazi dictatorship. We have been going around the world. The only thing that's making America great again is by making more bombs and blow up more countries, more children, more people. And I can't help but wonder if this is not the agenda, because after all, I was with Dr. Pigeon and his wife, me and my wife as well, about a year or two ago there. We were up in Georgia. We went there to the Georgia Guidestones where they're going to reduce the population. Got to get it down to an alarming low number. Again, maybe that's because only a certain part of the world is going to be inhabitable after they get through doing what they're planning on doing. All right, don't want to waste a lot of time, guys. Let's move forward here. So much that is going on. U.S. fears Iran planning massive regional war in the Middle East. This one is actually laughable. The Iranian government, listen, they got a bunch of oddballs running that country to begin with. But one thing's for sure, Iran knows they are no match for the United States, they're no match for NATO, they're no match even for Israel, for heaven's sake, they're no match for Israel. If Iran was planning on waging a major war against Israel, they would have already done it. Israel, 200 strikes against Iranian targets in Syria last year alone. What did Iran do? What did they do to Israel? Nothing. Oh, we say there was a few, but it was actually, the proof was not Iran, it was actually Syria that fired in a few missiles up in the Golans during that one offensive where Israel really hit some Iranian targets majorly. Iran has lost a lot of generals that have been inside of Syria from the continued bombardment by Israel, with Netanyahu's determination that Iran has no right to be anywhere near its borders, because we have to fearmonger and say that Iran is the worst place on the planet Earth. If Iran was so bad, how then can we have 30,000 Jews live in Iran with no problems? I mean, seriously, friends, let's take it for what it really is. And as I've said before, Israel is ready to take the United States, and we're ready to go bomb Iran into submission. But yet the God of Abraham comes down to Sodom, and they're overlooking from up on the hills there. And Abraham asks God, if there's 50 righteous, would you spare the city for the sake of 50? Now, Abraham only wanted to know if there was 50 people there that really love you, Father. Would you spare, even though I know they're evil, they're doing bad things, there's all kinds, there's sodomites. That's where we get the term, the sodomy for promiscuity of sexes today. Would you spare the city for the sake and not kill all these bad people because of 50? Well, the Heavenly Father says, yes, I will spare it for 50. He gets all the way down to 10. If there's 10 righteous, I'd spare the whole city just because of the 10. All right, so for the Jewish people that believe that the Jews are the righteous, because in Israel we always have 10 people always praying at the Wailing Wall, believing that this is 10 righteous of the nation, therefore God will spare Israel and we will not be sent back into exile as a result. That is why that is done, in case you didn't know that. For the Christians that believe that the Christians are righteous, if there be 10, we've got over 1 million. Now some Christians believe, as Solomon said when he was going through the land, he could only find one righteous in 1,000. All right, well, if you got 1 million, you got what? 100,000 righteous souls there. Then who are we then to have to say that we can go blow up Iran when God himself, the God of Abraham, says, I won't do it. I will not destroy the city if there's 10 righteous there. Oh, but you can count on one thing. America and Israel and NATO and all these other countries, they're more righteous than God because they'll blow it up anyway. And that's how we make America great again. Do you not think that judgment won't come on our own nation because of these sins? Think about it. Think about that for a moment. So anyway, so they're worried about Iran as the one doing it. And of course, they blame Iran for digging the tunnels, right? Here's what's interesting. This came out on Sputnik News right here. Ex-Israeli defense minister, which is Moshe Yolan they're talking about, admits to lying about Hezbollah tunnels for years. Sure they did. He actually states, we did it to mislead the other side. My comments 2 years ago that there are no tunnels in the north was a lie in order to preserve the security of the state. I didn't want Hezbollah to know that we knew, he told Army Radio on Thursday. This is such a crock. I never heard such a big pile of poop in my entire life than what I just heard Moshe Yolan state here. We didn't know. Well, let me remind the American public as well as the Israeli public as well, which they are. The Israelis know. Listen, Israelis are not as dumb as the Israeli leaders are, or as dumb as what the Israeli leaders like to make them think they are, right? Here it is. This is on August the 1st, 2014. 4 years ago. Residents of Israel's north, we hear the sounds of tunnels being dug under our feet. The residents for nearly 2 years are saying to the Israeli government, I reported on it many times, we can hear it. Listen, they stand there, they got a recorder, and the guy is standing at his sink, and you can hear it. Bing, 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 bing. They're drilling tunnels under our feet. Israel came up there, no, we can't find any evidence of any tunnel digging being done. Now that's what he's saying. We did it, we lied because we didn't want Hezbollah knowing that we knew. No, that's not the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is you needed something to really justify the war to go and blow up Iran in the future. And of course, the article that's over right there, they say that they got the technology from Iran to dig the tunnels. Well, maybe they did. There's a lot of countries that know how to dig tunnels. All right? But the point is, they're lying in this article here when they say, when Moshe Yolan says, We lie. He does admit to lying, but then he lies again and says we did it because we didn't want Hezbollah to know. It was all in the news that they were digging tunnels. You don't think Hezbollah doesn't know what Israeli news is being said about all the time? You think they're that stupid? No, they're not. They knew good and well. The Israeli military knew good and well. But the Israeli military, instead of destroying the tunnels then, you have put the Israeli people's lives in danger so you can justify a war on Iran in the future, which that future has now arrived. Let me tell you something. You know, I had a precious brother. I love him. He's from the Netherlands, and he was a little upset the other day when I had written something about what just some of the evils that the Israeli government is doing, you know. And he wrote me. So I sent him the article that was written by, a very long article too, that was written by the late Barry Chamish. And Barry goes in there and exposes the crimes that the government of Israel was doing, especially back then, over the settlements that were near Gaza, and how the Israeli government was setting up attacks against Israeli soldiers, against Israeli people in their homes, and they were dying, they were being killed. They were justifying disarming the military people for bogus reasons so that they would allow an attack to come in. Attacks being coordinated in secret by military intelligence to kill Israelis so that they could come back and justify saying it's not safe for the settlements to be there near Gaza border. We have to uproot them all. That's just like when Weizmann at the Kastner trial stated, yeah, we got letters like the one that Rabbi Dov Weizmandel sent to us there in Switzerland about we could, purchase the Jews for $3 a person there in order to rescue them. But no, instead we paid $1,000 a Jew to get only the elite to come to Israel out of the same group that you could have got them for $3 a Jew. Let me tell you something, I would have bought many Jews for $3 a Jew. If that's what it could have taken to save their lives, I would have done it. So would have been a lot of believers. But no, you know what Weizmann says in the trial? We had to sacrifice, we had to turn a deaf ear for that 800,000 Jews in Hungary in order to be able to have the right to sit at the tables with the other nations as we repartition the land. He said we had to have, and he actually states, quote unquote, human sacrifices. Just like today, the government is using human sacrifices to be able to justify the moving of the people, to be able to justify the creation of a two-state solution, to make sure certain aspects of the country, the populations are willing to accept it. If you get enough violence in there, as they did back in 1994 when the Oslo Accords was being signed and the secret deal between the Vatican and Shimon Peres and Yossi Beilin were going on, therefore they had Yasser Arafat start the Intifada so the people would accept the way the partitioning was going to be. So unfortunately, it's not just the Israeli government. There is also those in the Palestinian government, the Palestinian Authority, that are also just as complicit of the crimes against their own people in order to facilitate the most evilest. Oh my gosh, it's to bring about a new world order, friends. It's to bring about Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem, where United Nations forces will be there and the Pope of Rome will get the old city and will govern from there. There's so much evil going on, friends, and I don't know if anybody has any idea just how evil this is. So yeah, the Israeli government could have done something about these tunnels dug by Hezbollah, and yes, Hezbollah is digging them. I don't make any bones about it, they are. And we were trying to bring awareness to it that Israel would destroy those tunnels back 4 years ago. But they waited to make it look really good, put the Israeli people's lives at risk to justify blowing up Iran in the near future, and Lebanon for that matter. Unreal. Unreal, the things that are going on. All right, let's move on here. This is just in closing, last part I want to bring out. David Icke is one person that brings this out. Scientists will copy effects of a huge volcano eruption to block the sun's rays and fight global warming at the tune of 2.3 million pounds, study funded by Bill Gates. What a nonsense thing that he's planning on doing. You cannot help but wonder, is this the blocking of the sun? The sun turns to black as sackcloth I don't know. But anyway, they're wanting to take and use, it says right here, as a part of a $2.3 million or $3 million experiment, partly funded by Microsoft Bill Gates, a team from Harvard University will spray tiny chalk particles into the atmosphere 12 miles above the Earth to reflect some of the sun's rays back into space. They hope this will have a similar effect to an erupting volcano releasing sulfur dioxide in 1991. Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines. All right. Now, this is nanoparticles, by the way, that they're talking about releasing. And of course, I think, as we all know, Israel, of course, major contributor in the developing of nanotechnology. And of course, that nanotechnology, just like the airplanes are spraying out, we had Harold Kautz on in an interview about this. And he would not say it publicly, but we did talk about it privately. And he also spoke about how Israel had developed the nanotechnology, but he said this is what they will use. Those nanoparticles that you're breathing in makes you become a walking antenna for them to be able to control you by your mind and everything. You know, let me tell you something. We need to do some major detoxing in this country if you don't want to be affected by this type of technology. In fact, Harold said that one of the only ways to purge this out of your system, besides doing chelation, etc., is also the way we eat. He actually suggested, even if you are a meat eater, that you should take time to go vegan for a while to detox your body from nanoparticles, because he said everyone is subject to it. And I'm not trying to condone one way or the other. He just simply said for a time you should use this as a possible purge of the body to help get out these nanoparticles that we're breathing in every day, because they're going to use it when the 5G rolls out. Guess what? All those heavy metals in your body through the nanoparticles, and it's not just heavy metals, it's like little micro robots that we breathe in. But chelating them out of your body will help remove them. So I personally think, I know he said, I don't understand myself why he said to do veganism to help do it. He said you could do it for a while and then go back to your regular diet. I think personally just the fact that if you chelate the heavy metals from your body using chelation, that would also be a major contributing way to get them out, regardless of your dietary ways that you might be doing. Anyway, these are just some of the things that we've been looking at. There's a whole lot more, as I said, going on. We'll be covering more. Check out, like I said, the Noon Institute. I have not put the video together. I spoke about it briefly when we were on with L.A. Marzulli, which reminds me I'll be in a conference with L.A. Marzulli, my wife as well, up in Oregon. I haven't put that on our own website yet, but I will get a link to that on our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org, as well as later today. I will put in that link, so if you want to come to the conference in Oregon, you can do so. Canby Grove is the place in Oregon where it's at, and I think the site is, I always forget the name of that. Anyway, but I'll try to get that up for you guys, those of you that are wanting to come to that conference. So check out the description on this video once it's fully up and loaded. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Be sure to support the broadcast. Your help is vitally needed. And you can do so at IsraeliNewsLive.org. Our website is in the description below of this video already. You can do that to help keep this broadcast, hearing the truth, on the air. Thank you very much for watching. And shalom in a world of Ein Shalom. There is no peace.